Good evening, my friends, and what do you suppose is going on right here? Here we have the Deluge and the Tenori-On, two sort of grid synthesizers. I've wanted to compare them and connect them, sort of do a discussion, because people will make some obvious comparisons, but these two devices are kind of different, so I thought I would compare and contrast for you who are interested. I'll turn on the lights now. Now that the lights are on, the first thing that you might notice is that the lights on the Tenori-On are not quite as bright, and they sort of flicker in the video, even though to my human eyes they don't seem to flicker in the same way. So it's kind of different. I mean, LED technology has improved a lot in, 10 years or something. It's not really a fair comparison between these two devices because Deluge is fairly new and Tenori-On is, I forget the age, I think it was 2007, so it's been a while, but both quite interesting, very, very good for sequencing. Here I have, using the Midi Learn mode on the Deluge, I have gotten certain tracks of the Deluge to be controlled by the Tenori-On. And if you want to spend the time using the Learn button, you could hypothetically get all of your sequences, all of your everything mapped, if you know what I mean. It's kind of on the complicated side, but let's see, what do I have here? So that is a mapped voice. See, it's on one side, here is the Tenori-On, and then on the Deluge. One thing to notice on the Tenori-On is it only sends MIDI if the sequencer is playing. It doesn't send MIDI otherwise on the keys. So it's kind of tricky to use the Learn mode. You have to sort of read up in the manual on the Deluge to learn how to make the Learn mode work. But it's fairly straightforward. I got it working on basically my first try after reading the manual. So what can we say about these two machines? Well, for one thing, the sound quality. A lot of people have talked about this over the years. The Tenori-On it's got its own, I believe it's a Rompler engine. It's playing back ROM samples in there. So sound selection is what they have included in the sound bank. You get to load in a few user voices, but it's not really that expandable or changeable in order to, you don't get that much flexibility in order to change the sounds. So, a lot of us with the Tenori-On here, I'll get these sounds going here. Turn up the volume a bit. The sounds are interesting. They're a little bit quirky, you might say. You might call them quirky. So, finding just the sounds that you want to use for your project, you may or may not be able to do that with the built-in sound set. Of course, this is fine for controlling external devices. You can use MIDI. Here is the MIDI dongle that adapts it to a standard MIDI plug. And then I have the standard MIDI plug going into the Deluge over here. So compare that with the Deluge, where you get a really flexible sort of sound routing, sound system, you know. You can do most of the type of things that you would expect to. Oh, wait, I have to turn it up on the mixer. You get a pretty good set of preset voices, and the presets are really, really flexible. You can change them, you can save your alterations to the presets, or you can just start over from basically a simple blank sound with the synthesizer and the thing. This synthesizer and the thing. You get subtractive synthesis, you get FM synthesis, you get sampling, playback, as many samples as you want to load in the SD card, and SD card goes down here. Both of these devices, they're similar in that they run the SD card. So let's see. The number of voices, basically, on the Tenori-On, you'll always get 16 tracks with these, you know, these buttons, which are the special thing for the machine. You press them. Each layer can have its own sequence going. So you always have 16. You have 16 tracks, and each track is multi-timbral, or multi-timbral. I mean, each track is polyphonic. You can play back multiple notes on it. You can do chords and stuff like that, but it's always set at 16. Whereas with the Deluge, you have basically as many tracks as you want to have. Let's see, I'll load up a different sequence. You have as many tracks as you want to have, but it's going to be, you get eight tracks that you can look at the same time, so you can scroll up and down. So here it is, 8 by 16 versus 16 by 16 at a bit of a smaller scale. Yes, it is more portable. That's true. Let's see, what else can I say? So, they're both great for sequencing external devices through MIDI. I would say with the Deluge, they put in a lot of thought to the MIDI in and out. You get the gate out, the CV, and all of that stuff. It's pretty advanced. So, too many voices here playing at once. Let's see, what else can I say? So, you know, the modern Deluge has a lot of advantages. I mean, it's got a color screen. You can use the color screen for color coding. But, you know, in a comparison, you have to be fair. You have to bring up the advantages of both devices. So now I will bring up the advantages that I can think of that the Tenori-On has over the Deluge. And because they're still working on the firmware for the Deluge, they might be able to incorporate some of this stuff, but the things in the hardware are not really, it's not really possible to do that. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and load. Oh, also look at this huge amount of patch storage that you get. So, with the Tenori-On, you have, in addition to the regular sequencer mode, you have these other type of sequencing modes as well. For example, this bounce mode, this is one of my favorite features on the Tenori-On. This bounce mode where the dots seem to go up and down and just, you know, better turn that down a bit. So you can use that for drum patterns, as I often do. or you can use it for synth patterns. Once again, examples of sort of the quirky built-in sound design here. But there you go. It's a fun way to come up with some melodies that you wouldn't come up with on a regular sequencer. So that's kind of cool. And let's see, what else? Do I have any of the other modes engaged here? There are a bunch of different other modes on the Tenori-On that I don't really use, but other, sort of multi-sequencing things that you can do. Another thing that I really like on the Tenori that I hope they might make something kind of similar is it's called the solo mode on Tenori, and here you have basically an arpeggio happening, and the up and down value is how often the sound will happen. So you can use it to make little riffs or various things. It's quite fun in that way. Let's see, what else can I say about that? But the point is that these are always on sync. It's sort of like a note repeat type of feature as you would have it. And there's an arpeggiator on the Deluge, but there is no note repeat. And I keep asking for note repeat on the forum, so hopefully they will listen to me at some point and implement it into the OS. See, what else can I say? Oh, yes. So, one thing to notice is that the Tenori-On, here, this is the user side, but then there's also the other side of the unit, the audience side. So they get to see basically a second duplicate of what you are doing. And I don't know if there's ever been an instrument quite like that, but it's a really cool feature for doing a live show. I like it a lot. And, Deluge and iPad and all of these other things don't have such a thing. So it's, it doesn't really matter if you're playing it by yourself. But if you're doing a live show, that is just great for Tenori-On users. So, an advantage of the Tenori-On White, the orange one doesn't have double-sided screens there. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Okay, here's something. So on the Tenori-On, basically both of these, you have the opportunity to make more complicated sequences. On the Tenori-On, you get to use the different blocks. You can go back and forth between the blocks by holding this modifier and then move to the left or move to the right. You get a different sort of pattern. You get 16 variations on the main pattern using the block mode. It really is quite a good sort of thing, and it is a shame that Yamaha has sort of abandoned the Tenori-On project. They're not really doing much with it. There are apps for your iOS device. Let's see. Start up the Tenori-On app here. There's apps for your iOS device, so you can do a similar sort of thing, but even the apps haven't really been updated that much lately. And that is a total shame, because the apps are great too. And, it's just a lot of fun. And the other thing about the app is the app will allow you to do jams over the internet in a pretty cool way. I don't know why more people don't do it. But guess I'm sort of an expert on future technology, but it's hard for me to understand why certain things are popular in the present day, I guess. All right, let's see, what else can I say before this video gets too long? You know, either device is really cool. I would say if you're wishing for another Tenori-On-like device that's, kind of similar, it still gives you the same fun feeling working on it. I would really recommend the Deluge because, they both give you a hardware method to control it with a bunch of buttons. You're not looking at a laptop screen with Ableton Live or FL Studio or whatever. It is, as they are saying these days, DAW-less jamming, no digital audio workstation, a DAW. You're using this device, which it doesn't have as many features as, the high-powered DAWs, but it's got a lot more personality, perhaps a lot more fun to use it. And, working on song projects, I have really enjoyed using the Deluge a lot more to do songwriting projects than, the laptop. It's been a bunch of years since I have used since I've used these machines instead of a laptop as my main thing. It's playing quite slowly because it's syncing. It's playing quite slowly because it's syncing with the Tenori-On. If I disconnect it, let's see what will happen. Then I load the sequence again. So on the Deluge, you get to color code your sections. I have this blue section and this yellow section, or yellow section. I'll load up the sequence. So I've sort of separated. You can divide your song up into various sections.